Hi there. My name is Tercy Engelhardt, and I want to take a moment and welcome you to the Unreasonably Grateful podcast, Living in Grace by Choice. And again, I say this every week, but some of you have been with me for a long time, several years. Others of you are actually new to the podcast, and all of you are welcome. So I want to thank you for sharing your journey with me and allowing me to share my journey with you, reminding you that I don't have your answers. So this podcast started as just an opportunity for me to share my story of recovery, 38 years of recovery after 20 years of living an addictive lifestyle, dealing with healing from sexual abuse and an eating disorder for 20 years. So, in my journey, I certainly learned from other people's stories. I'd get little tidbits of insights and wisdom when people shared with me. And I was inspired and guided to share my story in the hopes that you might hear something that perhaps maybe you've even heard it before, but the way I say it or how it's presented, it lands in a particular way, and you're able to see something about yourself or your own life or the choices you're making that you didn't quite see in that way before. And seeing it in this new way moved you along on your journey, gave you a little bit more freedom, like I say, a little bit more wiggle room. And that's my hope. So thank you again for being here. And, I trust that you have your answers. And if there's anything I can do to guide you closer to them, it's an honor. Along those lines, on Tuesdays, I offer individual sessions. Really, what I'm doing as an elder is listening and reflecting back to you what I hear, what I see. And always, what I hear and what I see is how amazing you are, how far you've come. And sharing that with you, I think we live in a time of a lot of competition and comparison, and we need those wiser older people to encourage us along our way and help us see who we really are, because it's so easy to get a distorted image and think that there's something missing or something wrong with us, when actually you're created as a divine image and you're beautiful and amazing and talented and wonderful. And it's good to hear that more often. So if you're interested in one of those sessions, you can sign up on tercyengelhardt.com under Work Together. And if you do that, I look forward to talking to you. I'm always moved and inspired by the people that show up for those sessions. It's a donation basis, so don't let anything get in your way. All right, so we've been in a series on love and looking at all the ways that we could open ourselves up to receiving more love, thus experiencing more love, and sharing more love. And today I want to talk about Gracias Madre. And I want to talk about it in the big sense as well as the specific sense. And this episode is inspired by someone who shared with me, asking me to share a little bit about the closing of our restaurant by the name of Gracias Madre in San Francisco after 16 years. So I want to give you a little background first. So Gracias Madre was born out of my husband and I visiting Mexico, taking sometimes grandchildren and kids from San Francisco area to their villages in Mexico to see their grandparents or their parents, and the hospitality that we received. So we did a lot of work in Mexico along the lines of, the sacred commerce work that our restaurants have always been based in. And on some of these journeys, we would stay in these homes of our employees' families. And oftentimes there was one bed in that house, and they always gave us that bed and slept on the floor. They fed us. They had amazing food. They would get special ingredients to cook for us. And, the mothers in these families oftentimes never sat down during a meal. They would be in the kitchen making fresh tortillas. I've spent lots of time making fresh tortillas along with those amazing women. And they were so gracious, so kind, so devoted, so committed. And Gracias Madre, the concept was birthed out of that love. Now, you could also take that in the big picture and apply it to the Divine Mother. In Mexico, it's the Virgin of Guadalupe. In Christian, it's Mary. But that divine feminine that is all of those qualities, the graciousness, the kindness, the generosity, the sacrifices that are made. Even today, when you look at moms making sacrifices and raising children and caring for them and oftentimes caring for grandchildren. And so Gracias Madre was our way of giving back, was celebrating those women. We even used their recipes in our restaurants in the early days, honored them. And it's with great sadness that after 16 years, we closed our doors. Now, there's still that same restaurant open in West Hollywood in Los Angeles and in Newport Beach in Orange County. But the original, the one in the Mission of San Francisco, is no longer open for business. And our longest standing employees worked in that restaurant from the first day to the last day. And many of them worked in our central kitchen prior to that. So, I just read today some articles that were written about that closure. And I want to just say something about that. We've been written up about in the press in the past. And my experience, and again, this is my experience, is always that the press tells stories in a way that they spin it. It's never actually what we say or the truth, or in this case, what our general manager said. It's always to share a story that's going to sell their periodical, whatever that is, whether it's online or paper copy. And that's sad to me because so much of what Gracias Madre was and is about got lost in that story. And they brought up a lot of the past of our history with Cafe Gratitude and with our switching from a vegan diet to an omnivorous diet, from our being on the farm. They were just, all of this got mixed into it. And what I want to say about that is you have to not get attached. You have to not be impacted by what other people think of you. And this is a really great lesson in life, in recovery, in reclaiming who you really are. It's not your business what other people think of you. It really isn't. Your business is who you're going to be in the world and how you're going to treat other people, not what other people are going to say about that, which will always be an interpretation. And you can look at, it doesn't matter what you look at, any book, any news story, depending on what you're listening to determines how it's being interpreted. So, there's sadness there. And then again, I know the good that we did. I know the impact that that restaurant had on our guests, on our employees, on our team over time. I know that that mission still continues in Southern California. And I'm grateful for the opportunity that we had to serve and to provide something that I think was definitely needed. I'm sad about the condition of San Francisco. The news article made it sound like we blamed the city. I don't blame the city. I don't blame anyone. I think we did the best we could with the conditions we had for as long as we could. I do believe that COVID impacted hospitality in ways that we never recovered from. And then again, what's happening in San Francisco with just the crime and the homelessness impacts people going out to dinner and feeling safe and not having their cars broken into and all sorts of things. But okay, that's the specifics. But what I want to say, and you can buy the Gracias Madre cookbook if you want to make some of those recipes at home. There is a Gracias Madre cookbook. But what I want to say is let's look at the bigger picture of it. So how do we celebrate the divine feminine? How do we honor? Some of us don't even get along with our mothers. Right now, we have a precious mother in our family from one of my daughter-in-laws who's suffering and isn't well. And my daughter-in-law is there caring for her. And it just reminds me of how important it is that we care for our mothers, that we care for the women that care for our children, those mothers, which would be our wives or our aunts or our grandmothers. So let this be a reminder, like Gracias Madre is such a powerful concept, the notion of thank you, Mother. Thank you, Mother Earth. Thank you, the mothers in our lives. So let's all see if we can't be kinder, be more generous, be more loving, and develop that Gracias Madre heart ourselves, that unconditional loving heart that never gives up on anyone. So thank you for being here. I'm so grateful, and I'll see you next week.